I accidentally was searching for another Julie Jones, and I came on Julie and I thought, wow, she looks fascinating. I'm going to just reach out to her. And so I reached out to her, and bam, I was like, ooh, I thought she'll be really great. And so that's exactly, sometimes you just have to go with the flow and say, hey, this could be cool. So, Julie, thank you so much for
Thank you.
trusting the process. That
Thanks so much
random
for having me.
process.
Yes, thank you.
All right, because I never had somebody on that did what you did. That's why I wanted to have you on, Julie Jones. So let me tell you a little bit about Julie. Julie retired and refired, I love that, from a successful healthcare food service leadership career to further uncover her purpose, helping people, teams, or programs design their thrive, ways to maximize their potential, find their fit, gifts, or purpose. She is a certified professional in talent development and uses these skills as the director of performance learning and as an adjunct faculty member at Ohio State to help others become more intentional, grow their skills, confidence, and impact. Julie, I read that and I was like, I got to have her on the show. So let's just dive
Thank you.
right into it. Your one sentence, you said, live with intention, designing your thrive. Why'd you pick that one, Julie?
Wow, that was a stumper when you asked me that. I'm like, oh, I've never really thought about it. But I have spent a lot of time in a number of organizations really since, coming out of the pandemic. And I really see this process or these same kind of problems coming up again and again. And I will say that life comes at us fast, right? So everybody is on this hamster wheel that just keeps going around and around. There's more meetings, there's more emails, there's more texts, there's 3 other ways you can contact people. And so they're all so fast. Everything is fast. So I think it's it's caused us to just say, just do. We've just become doers and doers and doers. And sometimes it feels like probably hanging onto that hamster wheel and being drugged, even rather than in the center of it running. And so that's what I thought. I thought we need to become more intentional and help ourselves understand really that power of pause and maybe don't take that easy path that says, here's this task, do it and be done. But I think the other thing is, I say it's your path, your purpose in your journey, right? And
Yeah.
to leave that, what I'll call that compete and compare culture, because that makes that hamster wheel, I think, go faster and faster. Well, I've got to keep up
Yeah.
with X or I've got to keep up with Y, and maybe build your own thrive culture. So, what is it that you knew that's unique to you? Once again, your purpose, your journey. What is it that you want? Your path, your purpose, your journey, and then build it from there and let go of some of that other stuff.
Now, you were telling me before we went live that you're in the gig economy, which I love. So you're a consultant. Do you travel around and you're
Mhm.
consultants to some
Mhm.
of these organizations, mostly in the healthcare industry?
Yes. Uh-huh. Although I was in a hotel the other week, but yes.
Oh. And when they bring you in, what is the big thing? They're like, okay, Julie, we need you because of X, Y, and Z. What is that?
It's probably my prior life experience, where I was a director of food nutrition services. So a lot of times we are engaged as part of Rakshaki too. It could be for program development. It could say we want to implement this process. We're not really sure, so I'll help with strategy. And a lot of it is, we need to build a team that's going to support X, Y, or Z, or our leaders are struggling with X, Y, and Z. So those are the kinds of things that I typically get involved in. And a unexpected finding, sort of like your unexpected finding, is I started to hear all of these same kinds of things. And
Mm.
so sometimes I'll just ask a question, and the question will be, gosh, what's a good day for you? What does a good day look like? And what I started to hear more and more were things like, ooh, I got through the day. I got through the shift. I got all my emails answered. I had enough staff. So I felt like what I was starting to see was people, we set a sort of lower benchmark, right? So maybe that survive kind of thing. I made it through the
Yeah.
day, but that's not a thrive economy, or that's not anywhere where people will grow and develop and get better, because you're hanging on to the hamster wheel. And so those are the things that I've seen. Like I said, it was just a little bit unexpected. And the levels of burnout are real. Certainly I've in healthcare. So pandemic was so hard for them. Then you add staffing challenges on the top of it, and then business challenges. So they've gone through a lot. And so it's really helping people maybe figure out designing their thrive. So maybe they can either reclaim it, revive it, so that they feel like they're operating from a better perspective. Because when they are, I think then
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
grow and develop.
I was thinking about you because I had a guest on my other podcast, Let's Keep It Real. And he's a consultant. I think he's an engineer by trade,
Mm-hmm.
but he mostly is in the healthcare business. And he got brought in. I was thinking of this because you said about pause. And he got brought into this huge hospital that was losing millions and millions of dollars and turnover because they were unhappy that the procedures were always running late and being pushed
Mm-hmm.
behind. And there were people quitting because they didn't want to put up with it. They just felt like they couldn't service the people on time. And you know what it must feel like if surgeries are being constantly canceled and all that. So he was like, okay, how can we make this run more efficiently? Usually it's not the people. These are good, caring people.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, he was talking about, I gave them a space. They already knew the answers, to pause and think about the answer because they're running around so fast every day, keeping up with the patients, keeping up everything. And would you know it, the thing, and this blew my mind that it increased by 85% the productivity. They had to take the carts with all the tools, the medical tools and
Mm-hmm.
everything on it from wherever they were on the third floor, fifth floor, all the way down to the basement, right? And all he did is they came up with the answer is make the cart smaller
Oh, wow.
so
Nice.
that they could get through the hallways faster
Mm-hmm.
and they could make more trips. Because what was happening is they would wait till the big cart would fill up. And then the surgeons were like, wait a minute, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this. And the nurse, that's all they did is make the cart smart. And it sounds like so obvious, but it wasn't until everybody sat around and thought, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on? All they did is take time to
Right.
breathe and not get through the day and thrive.
Mm-hmm.
But by him coming, he's like, I don't come in like I'm a miracle worker because they know the answer, just giving them time to do that. And I was thinking, that's exactly what you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
because it's
It
not
is.
about, caring about the people, even although they're all happy and would rather stay, they're going to make more money that way too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for me, I think it gives people that more motivation. I think it also helps them get some agency back, right?
Yeah.
Instead of things being done to them, like I can control, these are things that I'm actively doing to make it better, because it's been hard. It's been a hard few years. And I hear that, routinely from, some of the clients that I've seen, and, flip that to the student side, right? So they had their own pandemic challenges transitioning from
Yeah.
in person to virtual, and just the intensity of what they have to accomplish. And everybody it's that, like I said, they're just trying to hang on. And we've I'm as guilty of it as anybody. You have to really train yourself a little bit to say, oh, what's this power of pause going to do for me? And I get to do that more in the work I do now versus
Yeah.
in my old job. It was, I had to really set aside some time, and my time was usually early in the morning or late at night when people were gone, when I wasn't hit with the intensity of the day. But finding that space to do that, and finding the space as a team, I think, so to do that as well, like your description.
Yeah. And as much as we know it will benefit us, I think we all get caught up in the wheel. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I'm a big component that I set, I don't know what you do, but I actually have to set my alarm now. And every hour I get up and move. I do. I mean, for me, it's dancing. And you're calling it pausing, but it's for me to step away,
Mm-hmm.
check in with myself. Where am I? And then go back into whatever I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a huge difference. When I don't do that, sometimes I'm hit or miss whether I get up every hour. And it really, I know some people do it every 30 minutes, and that's really, really great. But just getting up an hour really, I cannot tell you how much it changes things. And then thinking about, well, what is it I really want to accomplish at the meeting, the presentation, teaching, the podcast, and everything. So, matter of fact, I was teaching high school kids today, high school young men, and I told them that you were coming on, and they know I teach mental toughness, mindset, and they know I'm a big component
Mm-hmm.
of taking. I say take a step back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they said, "Would you please ask Miss Julie when she says pause?" This is funny. How long do I have to pause? I thought, I'm gonna
That's a
let
great, yeah. Let me think about that one. I think long enough to get some clarity, and or to regulate an emotion, which may take you down a different path. So it may be as simple as let me count to 10, right? Because I need to regulate a situation that's happening right now. Or the power of pause, maybe don't respond right away. Let me think on this, and get back to you. So it's also simple things is, I write a lot for a lot of different things. And, you'll find me writing all the time. I learn that whatever I write, I let it sit overnight and I'll come back and look at it the next day.
okay.
And
You don't just
in
put it out there. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And it helps me so much. So sometimes that pause is to the process of thinking overnight, as somebody who spends time in learning, actually embeds your learning and it actually starts to help you make additional connections. So sometime in that rush of never pausing, you never get that ability for that consolidation to occur. So that's a benefit of doing that. And sleep is wonderful for doing that.
You know, I say it differently, but we're saying the same thing because the same thing I always say take a step back, reset. I don't send an email if it's a difficult email or I'm upset until I'm in the right headspace.
Mhm.
I don't just, you know how people get angry or mad and before you know it, it's out there, man. That text, that email is
You
out
can't take
there.
it away.
I go like this, take a step. So we're saying the same thing. I'm like, take a step back, don't send it, wait, and then come back to it when you're right in the right headspace. And sometimes it might take a week.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I've certainly seen a lot of things go south in my career, because people didn't have that power of pause. But then, on my desk, in my old job, I had something that was a yield sign, because I think there's the power of pause and then there's this power of yielding, right? That when do I
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
yield? And sometimes, once again, that compare culture, we may not yield.
Hmm.
And I think for me, it was a little bit of both. But once again, it's your path, your purpose, your journey. You know yourself better than anybody, and what that might mean.
So you see a lot of leaders out there
Mhm.
and all different styles.
Yes.
I had some people write in, and I get this. They don't understand with this one young lady said, with all the information out there on how to be a great leader, how is it possible that my boss still thinks by belittling us in a group meeting, he's going to get the most out of us? And I can't, I get what they're saying. Like, come on. How could you even think
I
this is
know.
beneficial? So, do you see any of that?
Yeah. Yes.
I do.
Um, and it goes back to that's also this power of pause, because the power of pause when you have to get into self-awareness, right? So it's the 80-20 rule. I think 80% of people may have some level of self-awareness and maybe 20% have none, right? So they
Right.
need to really rely on other people to give them that feedback, and perhaps they just don't care. I don't know. But I think that's that other thing, that skill, that this power of pause where you're asking yourself, what was my impact on that situation? Right? how did I make it better? Did I make it worse? And sometimes if you can get pretty prescriptive with some of your questions, you may develop a little bit more of your own sense of awareness. What was my role in what happened? Or how supportive am I? I always say, or how well did I do that? Sometimes we all say it's a yes or no answer, and it's really not. It's really how well did I manage this meeting? How well did I manage and build the team or whatever? And maybe it's a two, but is a two acceptable? I don't know. So it's beginning to develop some rating scales, but unfortunately, I see it. Mm-hmm. And it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And because it's hard for me to fathom. It truly is. And we are rewarding what we see, right? So the team who works for a leader like that, well, they get away with it. Oh, why can't I? Or
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to vote with my legs and I'm going to leave the organization. But it is hard when I see that, that's for sure. But the other thing that I see, sometimes maybe it's a result of that, is I feel like a lot of people don't have that sense of agency. What can I do to grow and get better and thrive, because they feel like they've been beaten down too much, and that's also hard to see. So it's trying to figure out what are small things that you can do that can make a difference. And it might not be at work. It might be something where you choose to thrive outside of work. So,
That's so true because some of the other people that wrote in had questions for you who feel like they're on the hamster wheel
mhm,
and they don't know what to do, but they've been in their jobs, a lot of them for 30 years. This is one. I got this so many times, and it was happened to be in the healthcare industry, bunch of nurses. They've been in there, they're in it, right? They're on the ground floor. And then managers come in that are new, younger. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean they're not good, but instead of getting to learn what they do, they start telling them you got to do this, 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 and this, and this, and they've never spent a day on the
right,
floor. They don't know how to handle this. They're like, what do we do? Because they don't want to lose their jobs either.
right. Sometimes it's asking the perspective of the other person. So instead of, once again, that yield and say, you need to understand my perspective, be a little bit curious about what did you see, right? So you redirect it in a questions-based approach to the other person. But we're really proud of this. And our team does this really well. And then you start to tell your own story. And try and sort of flip that sort of narrative from this top down through the other one to really build a bottom up story a little bit. Once again, all you can do is take some active steps to try. And the likelihood, and what I see is I see a lot of new leaders, they don't really recognize that, that cardinal rule says seek first to understand.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what are your understandings? How does this work? What have you seen work differently? So you're just asking some of that to that new leader. And in the new leader's defense, what I see is they're not getting as much support to try and figure that out. And
Absolutely.
yeah, to, and time has changed that. I tell people I'm old, right? I started my career before voicemail, before computers, before email. Everything was done face to face or via a memo on a typewriter. Uh,
Yeah.
so you had to engage people, but what's happened, that speed of work keeps
Yeah.
increasing, and we're doing more and more through technology. So those human skills of how do I engage with you as a human and what's important to me are taking a sort of a back seat, and they have to really find those, reclaim their humanness, and it will make them a better leader, I think, when they can. It's all about being able to connect with people when you're a leader, um, and the other things sort of fall in line.
That reminds me of so many people that I used to go to the coffee house that was open during COVID, right? We wear a mask, we sit 10 feet apart, whatever. Because I need people. I need people, Julie. I mean, I was going crazy. And I would talk to some of the different managers that were sitting in there doing their work. And some of them said, and they just brought this up again a couple weeks ago, they feel they lost their skills at communicating.
Ah,
that they're not as effective. And these are people that really care, that they want to say the right thing, they want to do the right thing, but in person, they're now nervous
Mhm.
because so much is done virtually
Mhm.
and offsite, which is great. And the one person said she feels like she's not as effective because there's no conversation to get people to get to know one another in the bathroom or the water cooler.
Okay.
That those conversations you just have when you go back and forth from one office to the next office.
Wow. Really great insights and things that I see. A couple of things that I have always worked for me, and then those that I see who do it well, is that you have to appreciate your audience and what's important to them. If it's this person, what do they need from you? And so that you modify based upon that. And I always try to imagine what their perspective is, but I always wanted to make sure that if that were a family member of mine, a friend of mine, how would I want them walking away from this conversation feeling? Because it's always about a feeling. I tell people we had a very large team that I oversaw in the hundreds of people. And when people eventually would get to my office, it was never about usually the what. It was usually always about how people made them feel in the process. And that was just a very key learning on my part, is to understand maybe they got some sort of discipline because they weren't coming to work on time. But if the manager did it in a humane way,
Hmm.
but when they didn't, I would say they didn't respect me. They didn't, those were the things, and those were the things that I found got people a little upset, not a
Yeah.
little or a lot, depending. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen all kinds of emotion. I think the other thing is, as leaders, there is an obligation on our part to create those points of collision, using the Zappos word. So is it in your process to spend your first 15 minutes of the day walking through an area or connecting with the team, whether it be virtually or in person? Those water cooler moments are so important because it's now about how you humanize and personalize the experience for others and understand perspectives. So it would be hard for me. I'm a people person, so that was probably the best part of my day. I spent a lot of times in meetings and having to do X, Y, or Z and figure out money and doing all that. But I found it fueled my energy level, that momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I am so grateful for Zoom. You know that because I'm
Mhm.
able to connect with people that I never
Right.
would have around the world. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to me, it's just been amazing. But it's still not enough for me. I have to have human contact. That's why I said I used to go to the Whole Foods, the coffee shop, wherever I could, ride my bike because I feed off that. That's
Yes.
how my energy level goes up. And those conversations, like you said, that are not planned, that you're having at the water cooler or the coffee shop,
Yeah.
or standing in the Whole Foods line. It just brings us it feeds my soul, Julie. It feeds
Yeah,
my soul.
I'm the same way. What is that? That 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever, 7 degrees of
Oh yeah,
separation.
yeah, yeah.
Because you start those conversations and you can figure out what you have in common. And I think for me, what was so interesting was approaching it from curiosity. At any given time, we had some of our team were from over 40 different countries. So I
Oh,
learned, oh yes, I learned so much. I grew up in a very small town in Western Ohio. The village I grew up closest to had 150 people. So so but you know what? It's pretty similar to a village in Ghana or
yeah, yeah,
so we would talk about, yeah, everybody knew your business, right? Um, so I think it just helps
yeah.
bridge difference.
But see, here's the deal though. And you said at the beginning, the leader has to have that right mindset.
Mhm.
It has to want to reflect on their
Right.
actions. If you don't, there's no way. I mean,
Yeah,
and you
there's
have a curiosity, like you said, for learning and like humans and 40 different countries, and that's exciting to you.
mhm. I absolutely agree. And so sometimes people will ask me a question, well, what holds me back? more and more what I see holds people back is this human side. This how do you create connection and meaningful connection with people? And I think that's really important. And it's the everyday moments that create connection. It's not I'm standing in front of this doing talking to 100 people and sharing this. It's
Hmm.
usually where you get it is that day-to-day interaction. Thinking about relationships as a bank account, right? I think that was Cindy Delaney, that how do you feed that bank account every day? Are you only taking withdrawals? So if Julie had a bad day, she probably had a surplus, right, in that
Yeah.
bank account. So they give you the benefit of the doubt. And but then the leaders who have no surplus, they're overdrawn so badly, they don't perform as well. I mean, research will show you that they have higher turnover. There's usually higher cost, lower productivity. Every sort of business metric is lower for that team. Um, but others have to make decisions on how you manage that. So
Yeah. Do you have any advice for there's a woman who wrote in, she works at a huge grocery store. She's been there forever. And they
okay.
got a new manager that came in. I'll make sure. And within 2 weeks, she doesn't even realize it, but like half the staff wants to quit because she's accusing everybody of stealing and,
Oh,
not being on time and work ethic and all this other stuff. And no one can figure out how she even got into this position. But she doesn't want to lose her job. She said, I don't want to be the whistleblower. Like, how do you handle that? Like everyone's like so scared to even ask for their paycheck from this person because
yeah.
she's so volatile.
So I think a lot of it is there a human resources support arm that you can ask and say, I'm just very nervous. This is how I feel. Once
Ah,
again, it always about how you feel. It may or may not. This is my perspective. And I always tell people, speak on your own behalf, not on the behalf of somebody else. Right.
oh
So
yeah, not me, but Johnny.
yes. So and is this a safe space? Can I have that conversation? I'm going to, and the other thing is assume positive intent. While it can't be hard, um,
Okay.
in your first reporting is assume positive intent. Wow, maybe she doesn't realize that it's coming across
Yeah,
this way.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe, but I think that patience in that process, and ultimately, it unfortunately it's going to come to some sort of head. Those kind of
Yeah,
situations do, where that's this live with intention. What can you do? What can't you do? And sometimes it maybe there's another area of the in the grocery store that you can work. So I see people move, and so because sometimes there's just not a match between the
yeah,
manager and the employee, and that can happen. But in a supportive environment, people are willing to work through that. But in toxic environments, not so much. So
yeah, yeah. Well, Julie Jones, I am really happy I found you by accident. I
serendipity.
Yeah, serendipity. I really enjoyed it, and I like your perspective, and you've given me a different way of looking at things, and also a different way of thinking about how I handle myself on a daily basis. Am I pausing as much as I should? Am I getting caught up? And before I know it, I'm down
Mhm.
that, I call it, I go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
And I'm gonna reset. I'm gonna take a step back a little bit more. I'm gonna
Yes.
reset just a little bit more. But before we go, is there anything we didn't get in that you want to get in, Julie?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is sometimes people ask me, well, what does it mean to thrive? What are some of those key elements of thrive? And it goes back to sort of Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory. So there's a few things here. One is intention, right? So you
Okay.
have to be able to understand intention, purpose, what is it that you want? The second one is really your capability. What are your capabilities? People want to grow, they want to develop. So you can get stuck a little bit. You want to find that environment, sort of like watering a plant, that you can grow and thrive. Third key element really is about that confidence, right? Do I believe that people support me in the way that I can? And then that last one is really about community and connection. right? So
Yeah.
belonging has risen to the top in more recent years as what's really important. So I think about you thrive by being intentional in the process, by growing and developing your skills, getting that confidence, which is also a sense of agency. And then lastly is building that your community, your Thrive community, people who support you on
It's
the
so
racetrack.
important. So
Yes.
important. And how can they find you?
They can find me at julie at ruckshockey.com is one way to find me. And I'm more than happy to engage with people. You'll see us certainly on the web. I think I shared that with you as well.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So wait, before we go, why Ruck Shockey?
why? Long term, I was their client for many years, and so they.
Oh,
Yeah, how about that? And for me, I chose them afterwards because, it's all about helping others succeed. We don't have a standardized path. We don't have that. What is it that they need? And we can adapt for them, as opposed to saying, here's our standard program, follow it through these 10 steps. So you'll see us adapting and moving based upon what's important to them. And at the same time, be honest in our assessments of what we do see.
I love what you do. I love what you do, Julie. It's
Well,
awesome.
thank you.
Yeah, I love
Well,
it.
and good luck in your TED Talk. So,
Oh, thank you. I'm
yes.
excited about it. Yay.
Yay.
All right. Listen, I have to tell you, wait. I, I'm excited to go. Of course, I'll be a little nervous, but I'm excited to speak. I'm more get my stomach in like I don't even know if you call it tizzy, but in knots, wondering what am I wearing? Do I have to put all this
Ah,
makeup on? What's my hair like? I don't know. I just want to go out there, in my
uh,
Doc Martens, but I don't know.
yeah, that is a stressful point, right? So,
I don't get what do you mean? I don't know what I'm wearing. I don't know what my hair is going to be stray, be blown out.
yeah, do what's comfortable for you.
Well, I don't know, Julie. We might.
Find the happy medium.
Yeah, we might. All right, hey, I got something to say. Thank you for playing along. Don't worry if you came in late. It's going to be recorded. And besides going live now on Facebook, we're going to put it on all platforms. So share it, like it, rate it. Julie and I will really appreciate that. Watch it with friends. There's some great tips, not just for work, for home. And the big two takeaways I have here is live with intention. Designing your thrive is so important. And pause. It's so powerful. And until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Bye, Julie, and
Take care.
toodles.
Take care.